Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fairfield and Happy New Year to everyone. If you're new and are interested in getting our future links to the meeting, please put your name and your email in the chat box and we'll be sure and get those out to you. This morning, I was thinking about how we've lost a lot of really important, meaningful folks in the last week or so in this world, and one of them is Desmond Tutu, and most everyone knows, but he got a Nobel Peace Prize in 1984, and was just had a big role as a unifying leader in the nonviolent campaign to resolve the problem of apartheid in South Africa. And one thing of the many things that he said that really, I think, inspires me, and I think that we could consider for a couple minutes this morning, is this. There comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. This morning we are lucky to have a reading for Hope and Healing by Ike Holman.
Thanks. I'm going to be reading a bit from The Return of the King, the third book of The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Sam and Frodo are traveling in Mordor, and basically they have nearly no water, little food, and their spirits are very low. So here we go. Sam struggled with his own weariness, and he took Frodo's hand, and there he sat silent till deep night fell. Then at last, to keep himself awake, he crawled from the hiding place and looked out. The land seemed full of creaking and cracking and sly noises, but there was no sound of voice or foot. Far above the Efeldoath in the west, the night sky was still dim and pale. There, peeping out among the cloud rack above a dark tor high up in the mountains, Sam saw a white star twinkle for a while. The beauty of it smote his heart as he looked up out of the forsaken land, and hope returned to him. For like a shaft, clear and cold, the thought pierced him that, in the end, the shadow is only a small and passing thing. There is light and high beauty forever beyond its reach.
Wow, Ike. I'm impressed. You are so grown up, and what a beautiful passage you had there.
Thanks.
Do we have announcements this morning? Generosity as friends, to our kindness, and to powering through whatever comes next together. Cheers.
Friends, as we continue in worship, is there anything we need to be mindful of that you're celebrating today, or anything that we need to hold in God's good light? Behind us, that which confounds and confuses and hurts, and to see the dawn of a new day, to experience hope amidst turmoil, to know promise after difficulty. Oh God, for this opportunity in life, and for the opportunity to care for one another and care for your cherished world. God, we are grateful this morning. Amen. Very nice, thank you. One of the things I admire about Joanne, besides her intelligence, kindness, and beauty, is her uncanny knack for remembering dates. Sometimes out of the blue, she'll mention, today is so-and-so's birthday, and it will be someone we knew 30 years ago who we haven't seen in years. But Joanne remembers. She's that way about faces too. She has 600 students a year in her library, and we'll run into a college kid who will ask, Mrs. Gulley, do you remember me? And she always does, and remembers their brothers and sisters too. For years, I could never remember my siblings' birthdays. I wake up and Joanne says, don't forget to call your sister, today's her birthday. I say, what, you think I'm an idiot? I knew that, even though I didn't. I always forget my siblings' birthday, except my brother Doug's. I've not forgotten his birthday ever since he turned 42 on September 11th, 2001. It's a shame it takes a national tragedy for me to remember my brother's birthday. There are other dates that have taken on fresh meaning for me. Growing up Catholic, I was accustomed to celebrating Epiphany, the visit of the three wise men to honor the infant Jesus on January 6th. But now whenever I hear the date January 6th, my mind goes immediately not to Epiphany, but to the violent insurrection at our nation's capital, aided and abetted by our former president. The word epiphany means appearance, specifically the appearance or manifestation of a deity. But epiphany has another meaning, a moment in which you suddenly see or understand something in a new or very clear way. I'll use that in a sentence. Last June, when I forgot our wedding anniversary, Joanne had the epiphany that she should have chosen a smarter husband. The story of the wise man that James Taylor sang about for us earlier coincidentally illustrates both definitions. It is first a story about the appearance of a deity, and secondly, a story about understanding something in a new way, illustrated by that curious tale in Matthew's Gospel of the Magi's visit, how afterward, in a dream, God warned the three not to return to Herod, who was scheming to murder the infant, but to go back to their homeland by a different route. They understand something in a new and very clear way. We might say that after the epiphany, the wise men had an epiphany, causing them to go home by another way. This morning, I want to talk about epiphanies, which in our Jewish, Christian, Quaker tradition is one way God leads us. In the Bible, every time you turn a corner, someone was having an epiphany, whether it was a burning bush speaking to Moses, or the Apostle Paul being knocked off his horse on the road to Damascus, or the apostles meeting the resurrected Jesus on the road to Emmaus. When George Fox, the founder of Quakerism, had a vision on Pendle Hill of a great people to be gathered, we could also say that that was an epiphany. We read about these instantaneous, transformative moments of people understanding something in a new way, these aha moments. Our tendency is to believe this is how God usually works, in an immediate, miraculous manner, intervening in space and time to either reveal something to us or perhaps even do something for us. I know a woman in her mid-30s who desperately wants to be married and have a family, but never dates. because she believes God will reveal the perfect mate to her with no effort on her part. When her friends say, I know someone you should meet, she says, no, thank you. I'm trusting God to bless me with a husband. There's a word for people like that. The word is single. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for epiphanies, for God to tell them who to marry, for God to tell them what kind of work to do, for God to tell them which house to buy, or whether to have children. They wait for God to tell them where to attend church, for God to bring them friends or wealth or mental well-being or physical health. Their entire lives rely upon spiritual bolts of lightning that will magically transform their lives, which is the worst sort of spiritual laziness, asking God to assume responsibility for their choices and lives so they do not have to. I know pastors who never prepare a sermon, believing God will tell them what to say as they're standing in the pulpit. I know Quakers who will not prepare for meeting for worship beforehand so they can be blank and empty slates for God to speak through, which God seldom seems to do. I know people who persist in dreadful, damaging marriages, believing God ordained their marriage and will therefore miraculously improve it. I know folks who languish in soul-numbing jobs, believing God has better things in store for them in some mysterious, elusive future. I know people who neglect their health and abuse their bodies, believing God will one day heal them and make them whole. I know people who will happily follow a tyrant, believing God is accomplishing divine purposes through an imperfect vessel. Trust me when I tell you things like that never end well. Remember January 6th, not the Epiphany January 6th, but the other January 6th. I know people so willing for God to rule and control every aspect of their lives, they will abandon personal responsibility and call it faith. To be honest, I am amazed God had to warn the three wise men to avoid Herod, when it was clear to anyone with half a brain that Herod was a scheming, evil, narcissistic bully. Wise men? One has to wonder. I once had an epiphany. You want to know what it was? I once had an epiphany that I should not ask God to do something for me that I was not willing to do for myself. Nor should I ask God to guide my decisions unless I was willing to study, learn, reflect, and grow in order to make better decisions myself and save God the trouble. Do I believe in epiphanies? Do I believe in rare instances God might grant someone transformational insight? Yes, I do. But I don't bank on it. Just as I don't bank on winning the lottery to provide my retirement. What I do bank on, and what I urge you to bank on, is your capacity to think, your ability to work, your willingness to make difficult and disciplined decisions based on the evidence at hand. That is not hubris. That is what it means to be a responsible adult. Friends, we should not require God to warn us in dreams about that which is clearly observable in our waking hours. we should not require God to warn us in dreams about that which is clearly observable in our waking hours. Don't spend your life waiting for an epiphany, for a magical moment to resolve all your difficulties or satisfy your deepest longings. I read a wonderful thought this week from Ralph Waldo Emerson, so fitting as we end one year and begin a new one. He said, "The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be." The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Friends, let us enter into open worship.